The first problem says a rodentologist, so somebody who studies rodents, is in Central Park studying squirrels. He selects every fourth squirrel he sees until he has picked 25 squirrels throughout the park. He records each squirrel's color and the number of times it goes foraging. Identify the population. So who possibly could be selected? Adrian, standing back. Who possibly could be selected? Population is all squirrels in Central Park. You need to be very specific to get this right. The sample size is actually who was selected. So the 25 selected squirrels. Student government is saving seats for students for a student section at an upcoming baseball game. Each class president, remember there's a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, senior class president. Each class president asks their advisory class if they're planning to attend so they can estimate how many seats they should save. The population, so who's being invited to the game to sit in this student section? TGB student body, which means the same thing as saying all students at Trevor Brown High School, okay? All students would not work. Trevor Brown would not work. It's either all students at Trevor Brown or Trevor Brown student body. Now, the sample size was who was actually surveyed, and it would be the students attending advisory in the same class as each class president. So there'd be 4 classes. It'd be the students that are enrolled as the same class as the freshman class president, students enrolled in the same advisory as the sophomore class president, and so on for the junior and the senior. Now I'm going to let you think of this yourself. Give an example of how student government could conduct a survey that is biased. That means that's unfair. And then come up with an example of how could they conduct another survey that is fair. So come up with one that is not fair and come up with one that is fair. We often use convenience sampling to illustrate something that's unfair. And then you can use things such as simple random sampling or systematic sampling. The ones we went over yesterday, cluster sampling, all of those in order to give an example detailed of one that is unbiased or fair. Okay, the next part, we are going to read I'm going to read each of the 6 examples, and then each one is going to match up with one of the ones up above. So cafeteria manager wants to know about breakfast preferences of students in upcoming meals that she's planning. And so she needs to get feedback from students. So she just walks up to the 3 closest tables and asks them what is their breakfast preference. That is an example of convenience sampling. It's lazy. She just walks up to the 3 closest tables. She asks those students, okay, I'm done. A cafeteria manager goes on the announcements and asks students they're asking them to volunteer to write their breakfast preferences on a piece of paper and drop it off into the box in the library. This is an example of self-selected. I want to change this. The cafeteria manager randomly selects one teacher, and it happens to be a social studies teacher. Okay, so the cafeteria manager randomly selects one teacher out of all teachers at Trevor Brown, and it happens to be a social studies teacher, and then she asks every student in that classroom to fill out a survey stating their breakfast preference. This is an example of cluster. Because every teacher had the opportunity to be chosen, she randomly selects one. It happens to be a social studies teacher. And then everyone within that group is asked. A cafeteria manager goes to the 10th person in line every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, she stops, she goes to the 10th person in line and asks them about their breakfast preference. That is a systematic sample. She has a rule of how she's doing it. The cafeteria manager uses a random number generator to generate a list of 20 student numbers from all students at Alhambra and then interviews these students. That is simple, random. And the last one, the cafeteria manager gets 4 lists, one's for every grade level. So now you have made up 4 different groups with common characteristics: a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior group. And out of those, they randomly select 5 students from each list. This is an example of stratified sample.